Happy Devil's Thursday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 346. Or is it 347? I think it's 346. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com's editor-in-chief, Nick Villano. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming live from the Primetime Radio studios inside the bunkers of both North and South Jersey, covering the Garden State. More Quinn Hughes rumors coming. Also, Jamie Langenbrunner quitting his job with the Boston Bruins. Where could he be heading?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't see that. Where was...
He is, I guess, allowed to pursue other opportunities.
Interesting.
We probably should have spoke about that before we got on air, Nick.
That's so odd. Why would he leave without a job lined up?
Maybe things are not so cozy in Boston. Maybe he wanted to try something different.
Well, we know he interviewed in New Jersey. And his name was out there for some other ones. But, man, that's a weird one. A lot happened. A lot of weird's happening in the NHL right now, right? Chris Knobloch got canned in Edmonton after taking the Oilers to back-to-back Stanley Cup final, just a year ago. Craig Berube getting fired isn't weird, but the whole thing kind of went down a little strangely. It took a while, and then they kind of did it. I forget what did they do that Saturday. My days are kind of mixed up. What day did they do it? Did it Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but the Knobloch thing shocked everybody today, and then Jamie Langenbrunner leaving. It's weird that he's leaving a good organization like Boston. But maybe he heard something in interviews that said hey, we just think, is Don Sweeney still in Boston? I think so. Yeah,
probably.
It's maybe people were taking some things away from him, and he had to go to a place where he'd have more of a role. Maybe Sam. Maybe he's going to Florida.
The rumors, some of the Canadian rumors were he was going to join up the team in Vancouver. Now that Vancouver's kind of settled down, there's some of their front office. I can't see Jamie Langenbrunner in Vancouver. I read it.
Hire GM?
Yeah. Why would he go cross-continent to Vancouver?
And Jamie Langenbrunner's American.
Yeah. Is he going to Minnesota, his home state?
I can see that. I think, I mean, with no knowledge of the situation, I'm going to say Florida. They have the opening. It's an opportunity. He just saw Sonny Maeda take a job he probably wanted. coming from Florida. Bill Zito seems like he likes that type of guy. I think, and Florida, they just took Braden Birch, who was their cap guy. The Devils just got him, who,
that's a great hire.
Really good hires right in a row. Yeah. Listen, I'm glad you're on the Sonny Meta train now. I know you were a little skeptical.
No, I'm not on the train. I just didn't. My thing with Sonny Meta is I think he's a good talent. I'm just not sold the people around him, meaning his boss, moving forward. That's all. I still
act.
Go ahead.
They do act like a small market team, and kind of are treated like a small market team. So I see. There will be some limitations there, but it's a salary cap league. You can spend what you can spend. They do have the luxury of being next to New York and having Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier the team, and they have it doesn't feel like a small market team, which it should, because they haven't made it past the second round of the playoffs in 14 years.
Since 2012.
You know what I mean? So
2012.
It should feel like a small market team. 12?
2012 was the last time.
Oh, 2012, yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It's a long time. The Rangers, has it been? I'm trying to think. We know the Penguins, the Rangers, the Hurricanes, the Capitals. Is it just have the Flyers made it to the conference finals since then?
In 2010 they did.
I know they did in 2010.
No, I don't think so. They had a pretty good talented team before Ed Snyder passed away. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they ever made it that far, to be honest. It's been a while for the Flyers.
That Giroux team was really good, but they let's see. All right. Since losing to Jersey, oh, that doesn't count. I was like, oh, but that was that weird 2020 year. Yeah, no, just second round. Okay, so yeah, but they made it to the second round 3 times. Oh, the Devils made it once. That's a weird one. The Langenbrunner thing is a strange one. I mean, listen. I would be floored if he came to the Devils, but maybe they sold him something that he believes in. Maybe a lot of people who played in Jersey for a long time. And how long was Langenbrunner here? 7 years?
2002, that trade with Newendijk. Yeah, 7 years. Also,
so a lot of the guys were there this long.
Yeah,
have still just kept their house in Jersey. Because Jersey property values go crazy, so you might as well. If you paid for it in 2002, it's probably worth 10 times as much. So maybe just we got good schools. I don't know how old his kids are. His kids are probably older. He's 50.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird one, but that's not why we're here, Sam. We're here to talk about Quinn Hughes. We got to talk about Quinn Hughes.
I put out my opinion out there on X.
As did I.
Yeah.
Well, not on X, but I put we have an article on puckspitchworks.com. It's doing very well. Thank you to all the readers. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, it's like I think today it's 48 days or 46 days or something like that. It's 46 days till July 1st. That is the first day that obviously Quinn Hughes could sign an extension. I'm trying to figure out, Sam, if this playoff helped or hurt that pursuit. You remember, once they won that first round series, Elliot Friedman came out and said he signed a 3-year extension. I haven't seen an update from Friedman since then. And you know what Friedman does? He framed it as This isn't from anything. This is just my prediction. I don't think it's a prediction. I think it's a spoiler. Or he thought it was at that time. If I'm Quinn Hughes and I see the path that the Hurricanes had to take, and I see that the Hurricanes are going to sit there and wait for the Buffalo Sabres and Montreal Canadiens in the Eastern Conference Final, and then I think to myself, I could either have to beat Colorado on the way to the Cup or have to beat Colorado in the Cup Final, where I've never been with my brothers. Or I might just say I'm not going to sign. And let Bill Guerin make his move. Because here's what's going to happen. One of three things is going to happen. Either Minnesota's going to keep him, they're going to shoot for the Stanley Cup, which is what he was going to do if he signed a 3-year deal anyway. Minnesota's going to trade him to a top contender, which is what happened to him this year. Or Minnesota's going to trade him to the Devils, and the Devils can re-sign him. I don't think that he loses much by waiting. And Minnesota winning one game in the second round, that just wouldn't convince me. I'm not even saying he's going to definitely go to the Devils. But that Minnesota team, the flaws were exposed in this series. They have detrimental center depth. I don't know how they fix it. Like, they're a team that I think would pay an arm and a leg for Nico Hischier. But here's the problem with the Nico Hischier conversation, because this keeps coming up. Nico Hischier's not going to get traded because the Devils ignored the center position in the draft essentially since 2020. In 2020, they drafted Dawson Mercer, who they thought was a center. Ended up being a winger, and kind of a mediocre one at that. And they did that. Tom Fitzgerald ignored the center position because he thought he was good. He thought he was going to go Hughes, Hischier, Mercer, McLeod forever. Like, he was good. I got depth. I got guys who could jump into the top 6. I got guys who were ready to go. They played all different styles. It's really a good 1, 2, 3, 4. He added Eric Halla for like some depth. You know, a guy could like mix between center and center wing. Well, Halla fell off a cliff. McLeod got arrested. Mercer's not a center. You had to go and get Cody Glass. Great pickup. Maybe the best pickup by Tom Fitzgerald is Cody Glass. Really worked out. But Cody Glass is not a number 2. Cody Glass, in my opinion, is not a number 3. He's like a 3-4. He's a bottom 6 guy. He's a low-end 3, right? If you look at like the top, 30 third-line centers in the league, he was better than that this year, but it's still, in the aggregate, put him in that bottom half, around like the 15 to 20 range. I think he'd be one of the best fourth-line centers in the league, though. The problem is now you have Nick Bustad. What do you do with him? Tom Fitzgerald really put this team in a bind, and he negotiated his way into to being stuck to where, and I think this is where Braden Birch makes sense, is you have to assess the situation. You have to really figure out. I think you can make the cap space work. Like, you can move things around. You can make a surprising amount. Like I showed this earlier where I did like one of those armchair GM things for Puckpedia. I found a way where you could get Quinn Hughes and Connor Hellebuck and make it work. There's a way to make it work. And I think I kept Dougie Hamilton. It's not the cap space that's the problem. It's the roster. your roster's kind of stuck. You got 4 centers, one who has an injury history, pretty extensive one at this point. Another one who Sheldon Keefe just like puts in these positions to carry this team defensively, and it's a thankless job. People have said that Nico Hischier's not a good defensive center anymore. He's facing like Nathan McKinnon every shift. He's facing Connor McDavid every shift. That was the job that Lindy Ruff used to have McLeod do. And at that point, any offense you got out of McLeod was a bonus. You're trying to shut down the opposing team's best player. Now, you need offense out of Nico Hischier. And then you have Cody Glass on the third line, which you got to get the right vibes. Like, if you get a good line going, he's great. If you don't, he does kind of fall off. And we don't talk about that a lot, but when he wasn't with the right teammates on that third line, it just wasn't working. And, again, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but you can't trade Nico Hischier. I've even seen some Quinn Hughes for Nico Hischier straight-up trades. You just can't do that. You can't find a good second-line center around this league. Teams are desperate for second-line centers. The Kings paid an arm and a leg for Philip Deneau because they were hoping upon hope that he could be a second-line center. And he wasn't. Who just got $6 million? Charlie Coyle?
Yeah.
Another guy, they're hoping it could be a second, third-line center. It's a lot of money. That's some Andre Palat money for a guy who I don't like it. And he's 33 or something. It's a bad contract. And you're going to see a lot of them. You're going to see a lot of big contracts for centers because people are desperate for centers. And I look at the landscape. I do wonder, like, if I'm the Devils, I'm making 3 moves right off the bat. I am trading Bustad. I don't hate his game, but I would rather spend my assets on a third-line center. And I feel like, Bustad's kind of an okay guy. He had his upside. He has a 20-goal season on his resume, but I just don't think he's that guy anymore. But somebody will give you an asset for him. You'll get back what you spent on him. I would do what I could to. I would look around. I think like a Max Domi is an interesting move. My ideal move is to get Tyler Bertuzzi from Chicago. I don't know if he's available. That's my ideal move. I think he would be perfect for this team. If you got Tyler Bertuzzi and you got Quinn Hughes, this is a cup contender. So just those 2 moves, and then the goalie thing you kind of have to figure out. But I think you just have to get a guy who's going to be like, you got to sit Sheldon Keefe down and be like, if Jake Allen's the better goalie, play Jake Allen. And you got to have that conversation with Sheldon Keefe. If you're keeping Sheldon Keefe, because again, we just talked about Chris Knobloch's on the, he's available. The issue is Chris Knobloch is a nice 3-year extension that's kicking in, and he's fired. He can go home and get paid for nothing, which is what the Devils had to negotiate against in the first place for Sheldon Keefe. Right? Sheldon Keefe had this contract in Toronto that paid him a ton of money. And they had to negotiate against that. It's hard to do. So if Sonny made us looking at the coach, and that's why I think that's why we haven't heard a final decision from Maeda, because I think there's a lot of movement still to happen. Sam, I wouldn't be floored if the Lightning hired Knobloch and let Cooper go. I wouldn't be floored. I think Cooper would get a job in 30 seconds. But I think there's some weirdness that could still happen. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else who might like. I think Dallas is going to stick it out for another year. Did Detroit can their coach?
Not that I know of.
No. But they could if a better one comes. What do they have? I think they have McClellan. There's a lot of movement that could still happen. Yeah, we live in a strange world. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Quinn Hughes? Do you think he's going to resign? Do you want him to come to the Devils? What do you want? What do you think?
I want to dispel this notion, like the Elliot Friedman thing. I think he was just spitballing, just something that was in his head. And he did it very respectfully. I think a lot of pundits blew it out of proportion. Spitting chicklets, that whole thing. They're just trolling Devils fans like they normally do for clickbait. Let's put it this way. If I'm Quinn Hughes, you got to ask yourself, what the hell is in Minnesota anyway? Even Rachel Herzog left Minnesota to come to this area, right? So, what's in Minnesota? It's like there's nothing in Minnesota for Quinn Hughes. All right, he got traded there because he had to be traded, and Tom Fitzgerald couldn't pull the trigger. Let's be honest here. Where did Quinn Hughes want to be traded? In the Northeast. The only team I fear out of all the teams, it's not Minnesota getting Quinn Hughes an extension. It's the Philadelphia Flyers. That's who I fear. Because of the Rick Tocchet connection. That's
the only one, though.
But don't you think the Flyers are going to drive up the price on the Devils? Absolutely will. And that's where it gets
I think they could do that.
Philadelphia, that's where his rumored girlfriend's from. That's the only city that really bothers me.
You're not worried about Detroit?
No. Not at all.
I don't think so either.
Not at all. That's another place like Minnesota,
I know, but his parents live there, so that's kind of the difference.
Nah. That's overrated. That's overrated. That's my opinion. I think all three Hughes brothers want to be in the Northeast, near New York. That's where the action's at.
Are you at all worried about the Rangers?
You should always be worried about the Rangers because the Rangers do stupid things. They go out of their way to do stupid things that kind of alter your plans sometimes. Like signing.
So hear me out. If Quinn Hughes says, I don't know if I'm going to sign in Minnesota, and the Rangers come to you and say, I'll give you Adam Fox. If I'm Bill Guerin, I have a hard time saying no. I think Adam Fox is 3 years on his contract.
I don't know his contract situation. You make an interesting point, but I think Quinn Hughes will never talk to Bill Guerin again.
I mean, he gets to live by his brothers. He gets to live by his girlfriend. The point you've made. He gets to live in the same city as his girlfriend. He could live with Jack and Luke Hughes. They could live together.
That would be a Ranger-esque move to do because it actually kills so many birds with one stone. But many of these birds don't.
You probably get Jack Hughes in 3 years or 4 years. I don't remember. You could probably get Jack Hughes in 4 years.
Yeah. I just don't know. I know Jack says the right things, especially after the Olympics. I'm not so sure of Jack Hughes' loyalty to the New Jersey Devils. I think, again, would he actually go to the New York Rangers in that scenario? Do you think he would do that?
I mean, if they dangle $16 million in front of his face? I know he makes a lot of sponsorships. He probably has as many sponsorships as anybody in the league, which is crazy.
But New York's a pain in the ass, though. That's the thing.
Right. Because New York, you still pay more taxes than Jersey, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because New Jersey, they tax you on gross, while New York taxes you on net in terms of state income tax. So the numbers may look deceiving, like New York is more, but the reality is, depending on how much you make, from what I understand, New Jersey pays more. New Yorkers will never admit that, but it's true.
Yeah, I do think you make more in New Jersey. What I've heard is that where you get dinged is property taxes so excessive in New Jersey, and that's where a lot of people in New Jersey are getting hurt. But you don't have to pay the crazy New York property prices. So it's six in one hand, half dozen there anywhere. So, listen, I think Quinn Hughes is. It's on the table. I just think it is. I think it's on the table. I haven't sourced in a while. I'll admit that. Like, I haven't talked to sources in probably a month, just because once Sonny got hired, I was like, okay, let's give it a rest. Let's let everybody get new information. We'll talk to our people around the draft and around free agency and see what's up. I'm curious what people are hearing right now, because
I don't think Quinn knows what's going on. I don't think even Bill Guerin knows what's going on. They may have an idea, but they just got knocked out of the playoffs. So let's put things in perspective.
Quinn seems like he's not a Zach Parise type that's going to text his buddy and be like, so Minnesota, like in the middle of the conference final. He doesn't seem like that type. Which, by the way, that's why I'm still mad at Zach Parise all these years later, is that he was texting Ryan Suter during the playoffs about free agency. That was a rumor, right? I'm not misinterpreting that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Minnesota, hired his dad, and his dad basically told him to come home, and that's what made it hard.
Whatever. He didn't need a text. He was a free agent. He was free to sign whoever he wanted.
Well,
to tell you, text in the middle of the playoffs.
To tell you the truth, you know whose fault this is, really? Lou Lamoriello. He tried to extend. He tried to extend, but Lou was playing Lou games which is now obsolete, because Lou, he was always playing with fire with that last year, that contract, treating them like a rental. I'll give you the C and you're going to stay. That didn't happen.
Yeah, if I was Lou.
Same with Niedermeyer. They did the same exact thing with Niedermeyer.
I know. I would have let it go into the season. Niedermeyer was weird, though, because it was after the lockout, right?
Yeah, so they lost that 1 year. So they didn't even have that 1 year. But I believe Niedermeyer carried the C when Stevens got hurt. And this is before so.
The concussion issues in 2004, Niedermeyer was the C. He's still technically, he's listed as one of the Devils' captains.
Yeah.
It was like for 24 games or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually weirdly longer than Elias. I had to double check, but the Elias captaincy thing was always bizarre. Anyway, we're going on weird paths. I think this one's going to be a short one tonight, just because there's just not a ton going on, and there's a lot that's going to be going on. We're going to be jumping into predictive free agency, predictive trades, predictive draft. But Quinn's the big thing. That's the big question mark right now. And I got to be honest, Sam, I think it's going to, if I'm Sonny Mehta, you got to just prepare for it. You have to be ready. And the other thing that happened is I don't think Tom Fitzgerald is getting the Nashville job.
Yeah.
I think it's the AGM in Carolina that's getting it. I think Fitzgerald is out. So I think Fitzgerald's going to be either out of hockey or in a consultant role this year. I do wonder I mean, like, Barry Trotz has got to just be considered a bad friend at this point, right? Fitzgerald traded that last 7th-round pick so David Poyle could get, that last pick in before he retired. He's always picking up the phone for Nashville. Barry Trotz went on the radio and was like, why would I need to trade Saros now? I got Tom Fitzgerald calling my phone every day. Like, I think Barry Trotz is a bully to Tom Fitzgerald. That's what I think, Sam.
Yeah. Well, this is what I think. There's no way Quinn Hughes is staying in Minnesota. No way.
Do you think he will go to, like, L.A.? Or he wants to be on the East Coast?
I think he wants to be on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I think he wants. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, wives and girlfriends are factors that happen with Kovalchuk. Kovalchuk, again, she really wanted to be in L.A. the entire time. Didn't happen, Just the way the world works sometimes. But again, I firmly believe it's a matter of, does Sonny Maeda want Quinn Hughes badly?
I think he does.
I think he will. Do you think, does he have the analytics? Like, he says he's a very process-oriented guy. He sticks to his guns.
Yeah, but Quinn Hughes is everything. He's analytics. He's eye test. He's by every metric of the game. Quinn Hughes is one of the best players in the league. He is outperforming. And here's there's something I do want to bring up because I think this is interesting. But Quinn Hughes outperformed Cale Makar. Just outright outperformed. Was better than them, like straight up. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I looked at like Spot Tracker, one of those. I think Cale Makar is also supposed to be a free agent next year. I have to double check this.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes' salary is probably going to follow.
Or you think Makar is going to follow Hughes's, or you think Hughes is going to follow Makar? You think Makar is going to resign on like July 1st, and then Hughes will be like, that sets my market?
Yeah. I can't imagine Colorado screwing this one up.
Because how much does McKinnon make? McKinnon makes like what, 14?
But the salary cap's going up by $8.5 million.
He makes 12.6.
Does he give a hometown discount?
I don't think so.
Where else would Cale Makar go?
Boston? That's where he played college. That'd be my thought.
Well, I think what Sonny Maeda is doing right now is he needs to. The most important thing right now. Forget about the Quinn Hughes thing. I think he got the right guy in charge as assistant GM. You got your captologist. He's what, the acting GM for Utica. You got to rebuild the development.
Oh, did you read my article?
Of course I did.
His most important job is fixing Utica.
Yeah.
The cap thing, great. That's a necessary part of it. Fixing Utica is number one on the list. First of all, Ryan Perrant, I confirmed it, is still an interim head coach. It's been about 2 years. Like, just figure it out. Do you want this guy or not? Like, how does that contract work, Sam?
It's kind of like you pay him intern money.
Right.
You know,
is he game to game? Is he getting? You know what I mean? Is he per diem?
Yeah, probably.
Get $500
No,
a week.
no job security. Meals. You know, but we'll pay you for that role for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's look, the circus is over. Because he plays that important role as that captologist, but it's Utica that can make this cap work for you. If you develop the right players and they're on entry level contracts while you're going on a playoff push, that could mean the difference of getting players like Quinn Hughes, because you don't need more expensive players in other areas because you've already developed them.
I'm curious. I want to see what's the thing with Carolina, right? Is Carolina is like way under the cap.
Carolina spends their money well. Also, Freddie Anderson is in a contract year, and he's playing very well right now.
You know, and some of their lowest price guys like Jackson Blake and Logan Stankoven, they go to about over $5 and over $6 million next year. And Mark Jankowski goes from $800,000 to $1.85. So they're starting to pay people, but you know, you get a guy like Mike Riley. You know, Alexander Nikishin is going to need a contract. He hasn't turned into what they thought he was going to turn into. I don't think it hasn't hurt them, but he just hasn't. You know, they thought he was going to be the best defenseman, best young defenseman. He's 24 already. He's an NHL guy. Don't get me wrong, but you know, they thought he was going to be a lot more than that coming out of Russia. Anyway, I think we're going in circles, Sam. So I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yep.
I'll do plugs real quick. PucksandPitchforks.com. We have a lot of really good articles up that went up in the past couple of hours. Stories on Nico Hischier and his availability. We have stories on Paul Bissonnette and him talking, you know, CRAP about the Devils and Quinn Hughes. We have a story about Matthias Maselli, who's a guy who's been in rumors in Toronto. Charlie Borges Jr. did a really interesting article about if the Devils might have had the worst draft class of all time. We looked back at the 2014 NHL draft. Really bad, Sam. Brett Seney had more games than the entire 2014 draft class. Bad. Big bad. But anyway, that's on pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm going to write, I have this story about Quinn Hughes that went up last night. Go read that. I have a story about Chris Knobloch. Go read that. I got a lot of stuff I'm going to write about. That's coming. Maybe not tonight because I got to write a fansided.com article, but got plenty to write about. It's coming on pucksandpitchforks.com.
Awesome. Ted's asking me about the Morning Woo returning and the Daily Woocast. Still taking a pause, still taking a break, but it'll come back. Don't worry about that. Still trying to figure it out. That's all.
What do you want him to say? He says it all on Wednesdays because there's nothing to talk about every day. I know you always find stuff. You're really good at that, but yeah, you'll be back.
I'll be back.
Just like King George, you'll be back.
I'll be back. All right. Well, I want to thank all those tuning in. Dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. And I'll say it again. I'll say it once more. Who the hell wants to go to Minnesota anyway? Unless you want to go fishing. That's
go see a lake.
Maybe see a bear.
You want to go to Minnesota in the summer, but they don't play hockey in the summer. So
you could go fishing in New Jersey. Got some nice trout, some nice streams. You can go fly fishing in New Jersey. There's bears in New Jersey. There's bears. Anyway, getting out of here. Till next time, let's go Devils.